So let's get things started with Antonio Gómez from Janssen, who's going to tell us about new models to fulfill the potential of basic research. Antonio, thanks very much for being here. Para avanzar es con el izquierdo y que no se te caiga.
Okay, yeah. Okay, hello, good afternoon, everyone. So, well, first, of course, I have to thank you, the organization, for inviting me to be here, for inviting me to present, and not only present, but be present, because I think it's been really a very interesting meeting. I'm really enjoying it. I'm learning a lot. So what the topic of my presentation will be about, you see there the title, Fulfilling the Potential of Basic Research. It has to do with open innovation from the eyes of the big pharma. So you will see that I will be talking about some of the concepts that Juan Carlos also introduced this morning. So first I need to talk a little bit about us, about Johnson & Johnson or Janssen, because, well, we are very well known, but at the same time, we are really a very huge organization, and as such, we are a bit chaotic. So we are a family of companies, and, well, to try to put some order into all this chaos, you can say that we are made up of companies and we are active in 3 fields. All of them have to do with healthcare. That's why you see there that we are the first company worldwide in healthcare. We are not the first pharma company, but in healthcare as a whole we are. And while these 3 pillars are, as you can see, they are medical devices, so we are doing things like orthopedics and surgical instrumentation, things like that. The second one is consumer, and this is the one we are most famous about, especially in this country. And this has to do with shampoos, baby products, and all of that type of stuff. And the third one is pharmaceutical. And a few years ago, the company decided to put some order and to group all the pharma companies of Johnson & Johnson together under the name Janssen. So you will see that sometimes I might say Janssen, I might say Johnson & Johnson. I sort of interchange both names. But in fact, when I say Janssen, I mean the pharma part of Johnson & Johnson. But something very important, especially for this meeting, is that Janssen is the pharma part, but the one that is dealing with drugs that have been developed from research. So we are dependent on R&D, and I think that's the key, the critical, as he likes to say, the critical point. So most of you or some of you will have seen this slide probably in many different ways. What this shows is the cost of producing a new drug, of bringing a new drug to the market. And you see how this cost has been really increasing in the last years. What this means is actually that it's becoming more and more difficult to create to make a new drug, to have a new product that goes to the market that means, at the end of the day, a new solution for patients. If you see, it's not here in this graph, but if you see the graph showing the number of products approved by the FDA or the EMEA in Europe, and it basically goes like this, so the other way around. So there is something that we knew how to do very well, which is creating new drugs, and that we are not doing, or we are not being very successful right away. And, well, why is that? Well, there are several explanations for that. One of them, that is, I think, for the topic of this talk is the most important one, is that the old way of doing things, the way that we used to do it, which was we did it all by ourselves. We were separate silos. We did we choose the target. We made the research, the R&D, and we brought the products to the market. That's really not working anymore. And well, why is that? One of the reasons is that all the easiest things have already been done. So the low-hanging fruit has been picked up. There is another reason. The other reason is biology. So when I started in Janssen almost 20 years ago, this was what biology looked like. This was, by the way, the time that, more or less, the time that SSRIs went to the market. And this is what we had in mind when we talked about the biology that we had to be based upon to develop new drugs. So this is a cell membrane, a synapse, and then you have the neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters then interact with a receptor in the cell membrane. Typically, it's a GPCR, and then that's all. And then that works, and that's you create compounds for the GPCR, and you create a new drug. But what's the biological universe now? Well, it looks more like this. So in fact, you have the membrane, you have second messengers, and then if you get into the membrane up to the nucleus, into the nucleus, you get a whole bunch of even new names that, or new sciences that by then they were not even known. So you have all proteins interacting between each other, so we have interactome. Then we have a whole new field which is epigenetics, so everything that is controlling the transcription of DNA into proteins. All this has to be taken into account, and this means that the science that we rely on, which is, and I think this is a very important point, this is a raw material. So this is what we need to know, what we are based on to make new drugs. So this is inherently very, very complex. And not only that, so if we want to solve this system by splitting it into different parts, the different parts are not working very well. It's the interaction between them all that at the end produces the phenotype or the clinical result. So what can we say? Well, this is the way it looks now. There are more things that we don't know than things that we know, and this is in fact, and I like to put this sentence by Socrates, the Greek philosopher. So in fact now we are more humble because what we know is the challenge that we have. There's more that we don't know, but at least we know that there are so many things that need to be done. And on this we are dependent on you guys. So this I said before, this is a raw material. We need science, and for this, and it was Professor Wimblad who said yesterday, do we need basic research? And well, I can say from the part of the pharmacy, or the pharma industry, yes, we do, because otherwise we wouldn't have the knowledge that we need to develop new drugs. So now let's focus a little bit on the R&D in Spain, in this country. Well, this table is taken from SciMago, so this is a statistic of the number of papers in R&D, and you see the position where we are, it's number 10. To put this number 10 into focus, if you remember this summer, the Olympics, for some time we were all just looking at the table of medals of countries. We ended up in, I think, a pretty decent position, but this decent position was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 14. And we are all very happy about our achievements in sport. So it means we are pretty good in sport, we are 14. Well, in R&D we are 10. What does it mean? That we have a very good level we managed to achieve a very good level in R&D. But, and of course there is always a but. But all this is papers, this is academic research, but we don't have the corresponding number in translation of all this research into applied solutions. So what you see in the cartoon at the bottom, we don't see the corresponding efficacy in moving from this basic science to pills, in this battle of pills, or to new drugs, or whatever comes out of research. Well, this is basically what this means is this misalignment of objectives that Juan Carlos was mentioning before. So the objectives are not well aligned. I like to talk about this as the valley of death. So this is something that is also very well known. But I think this can be phrased as, in mathematical terms, this can be phrased as a theorem. And this theorem has two propositions. First one is that typically projects that we see from the pharma industry that are coming out of academia, we look at them and what do we say? Well, they are very nice, very interesting science, they are not mature enough. So they are not at the level that we would like them to be. As also Juan Carlos said before, the level is we want a compound, a product that is very much about to enter clinical phases. So that's first proposition. Proposition number 2 is to make those projects mature enough, they need the help of the people who know how to bring drugs to the market, so of us in pharma. So they need expertise. Some of these needs is financial, so it's money, of course, and you all know that, but it's not only that. In fact, in some cases, the second part is even more important. So what is needed is the expertise, the tests, the key decision points that are necessary to decide on whether this is a project that is going to make it to the market, to the patients or not. So in fact, well, this is, there are two very nice propositions, but of course, if you put them together, something is not working. It's a catch-22. It's a catch-22, it's a vicious circle, and nothing gets out of this, or not that much gets out of it. So, well, what's the way to go to overtake all this and to manage to create something out of the academic research that I said was very good in this country? So, well, this is the typical scheme. This, in fact, has been, well, the model, as I would say, talking in pharma terms, the model is the technology industry, because in technology industry, cycle times are much shorter. So then you have ideas that come out of basic science that are likely to make it to applied science. You have accelerators, these programs, so you pick up a number of projects, and then at the end of the program you have an elevator pitch with investors, with people that could be interested on that, startups or spin-offs, and I have some of my colleagues in this session belong to startups. You have also incubators where you pick up some of these early ideas, early companies, and you nurture them to make them more mature, again, this word that we like so much. Then at some point in time, you also need some influx of capital, so venture capital, VC firms, and at the end of the day, what we all want is this to become a pill into a bottle that you give to a patient and you cure a condition. But not only that, so we are seeing more and more initiatives that are blooming everywhere and trying to target this valley of death. So we have seen also an example before, the MRC Dementia Initiative, so that's one of them. I had other examples here, the European Lead Factory, this is from the European Union, IMI, and what they do, they have a screening center in the Netherlands where they screen targets, assays that come out from academia across Europe, and what's that the people from academia really most of the times need, and Juan Carlos mentioned that before, the chemical library. So the chemical library has been put together by people from the major pharma companies in Europe. Another example is the Structural Genomics Consortium. So this comes out of the UK as well, and there are several pharma companies involved. This is pre-competitive, so we fund it, but whatever comes out of this is published. It goes into the public domain. Another recent example is the UK Drug Discovery, the Phenotypic Screening Centre, the Phenomex. So this is an initiative by several universities in the UK. For what they do is that they develop phenotypic screenings, and then the compounds come from the pharma company. Again, an effort where we all put something and try to develop drugs. But also in Spain, I have a few examples from Spain. The most clear one probably is Pharma Industria, the organization of Spanish pharma companies. They make meetings where they select projects from across Spain that could be transformed into products, into pharma products, and they make meetings with people from the pharma industry. Here, the Spanish government, this is meant for the Retos Colaboración call, where the research that is carried out in academia is funded. So this is a very good model for research that we in pharma believe is very interesting, but we cannot fund it because of internal priorities we cannot find, so this is a solution for that. And then I mentioned here Innopharma. Innopharma is an initiative from Santiago de Compostela. It started out with money from the European Union, and it's somewhat similar to the European Lead Factory, so what they do, but they put some more effort in taking assays that are not optimized and transforming them into high throughput screening assays. So what they take, to focus again, they take targets from academia, new targets that pharma wouldn't normally be interested on, and what they do is that they deliver compounds, they deliver leads. For J&J, what are we doing on this? Well, we have three strategies. One of them is not very new. You see here the Johnson & Johnson Development Corporation. This is a venture capital fund, so it invests in small companies, but it does not invest as a normal VC. It's a strategic investor, which means that they are not expecting an early return of investment, an early ROI. They invest to stay in projects that are of interest to the company. Then in 2013, we started the Innovation Center initiative, which are offices populated by top scientists within the company and by people for the deal makers, what we call, devoted to open innovation with a budget for open innovation. And then we have the J-Labs, J-Links initiative, which is basically an incubator initiative. A few more words about J-Labs. J-Labs started out in the US. Now we have in North America as a whole 5 centers, and one that is will start in October in Barça, in Belgium, near to our headquarters in Europe. And what these incubator centers do is they take projects from early startups that normally start from academia, and when they provide them, it's with the real estate, with the space, with the expertise, can come with a limited amount of funding. And And the important point about this is infrastructure, because I mentioned before the technology industry, but in technology you can start up a company with very little investment. So Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, they just needed the garage to start making Apple computers in the 80s. But here, of course, you cannot start, you cannot do a CRISPR-Cas and a high-throughput screening in a garage. So you need the infrastructure, and this is what we provide. It doesn't come for free, so there is a small fee to be there. But on the other hand, this is a no strings attached model. So it means that we don't get any rights on whatever comes out of that. So you might ask yourselves, why are you there? Well, it might be that we are there because we are very nice guys, but, well, we are big pharma, so we shouldn't be. And the real reason is that by working hand in hand with the innovators, with the scientists, we believe that we will be their partners of choice. And, well, I have to say that this is already paying off. And, well, finally, I just wanted to mention an initiative that is also very new. So it was announced in April from Johnson & Johnson together with the Karolinska Institute. So this is really from academia. And what we did is to make a joint call for projects. And then there's a selection committee. And again, this goes against this value of death, trying to take these early projects and trying to move them forward. And, well, just to finish and just not to lose focus, this guy here, this is Dr. Paul Janssen. He was the founder of the company in the 1960s, of Janssen, not Johnson & Johnson. And this is the sentence that he liked to say, the patients are waiting. And I like to put this always at the end of the presentation, because this is, at the end of the day, this is the goal of all of us, and this is what we should not forget in all the work that we are doing. So with this, I would like to thank you very much for your listening to this talk. And well, if there are any questions, I will be happy to take them afterward during the panel.